Welcome, or dobrodošli. This time of year is traditionally when you would start your first harvest of grain here in Croatia, and you would use your srp or your sickle, and you would go and you would cut your grain. We haven't grown any grain this year, so I guess I'm still just cutting grass.
Bok, I'm Mandio. This is Grow, Make, Cook, and welcome to my garden. I grew up in Australia in a permaculture family, but after we got married, Mr. O and I moved here to his home country of Croatia. I am a passionate and hands-on homemaker and gardener, and I love life's simple pleasures. So join me on my journey, and together we can learn to grow, make, and cook.
This is the second week in July, or srpanj. Srpanj gets its name from the srp, or sickle, which is the traditionally used implement to cut grass and grain, but is much too small for this job that I'm doing here. They're a bit of a sorry sight, my poor tomatoes, but I'm going to give them a companion plant anyway. Now, basil is a very good companion plant for tomatoes, and this poor Rogats thing looks like he probably needs a friend. So, because basil likes the same sort of very rich soil and lots of regular feed and lots of water, he'll enjoy living next to the tomato, I hope. So I'm just going to pop some basil in here right next door, where they'll hopefully be good friends. I'm going to put another basil plant in my other test bed with that tomato, and another one with my other section of tomatoes in my other bed. Okay, that'll want a really good soak now to get established. Heavy drinkers like this like a long, thorough drink. Half a can isn't too much. Down here in the bottom part of the garden bed, which is still very much under construction, I've decided we need a bit of structure, some safe spots to step so that we can get through with a little bit more ease. So this week I've decided we're going to start making some stepping stones. I've got here this bit of board. It's actually 4 little bits of board held together with L brackets, but it's the right size for my stepping stone. So what I'm going to do is just lay it down on the ground, and the ground here is terribly dry from the drought, but I'm hoping we can get through it. And what I've got here is just my spade, and I'm just going to mark the corners. Careful not to do too much collateral damage to the plants around me. And there we are. Now I know where my stepping stone will be. Mostly I'm breaking this up so that I can make a nice level spot for my stepping stone to go. So that just means digging out the high points, taking out any weeds, like that one and that one, and just trying to make a nice spot for this so that I can set it level. Just checking that this is level, both directions. It's pretty good. It's never going to be perfect, it is a stepping stone, but just checking that we've got it roughly right. On to the next step. just loading up my frame with some concrete. And then just going to give it a bit of a rough level inside. And then we're going to pop some bricks in on top of that. And then I'm just going to pop these bricks in. Give them a good tap down. Put the nicest side up. And then I'm just going to fill in these gaps a little. That same concrete mix. Now we just need to see how this turns out. We'll check back tomorrow. Well, that looks all right. I mean, it's no work of art, and we'll fill this soil back in around it to make it a little bit more solid, but I think we can call that a success. Give it a little bit more time to solidify up a bit. Only sort of 12 hours since we did this yesterday, so, well, maybe a bit more. But I think we've made ourselves a stepping stone. Today is Friday, which is petak in Croatian, and we here keep something that we call Feeding Friday, Nahraniti petak. Doesn't really work in Croatian, but Feeding Friday. So, what we've been using is our very stinky, be glad YouTube doesn't have olfactory sensors. This stuff stinks. But the plants love it. So I just take my little squishing stick, because you do need something to hold down the top layer of scum and slime, and then we just use that to hold it down, and then I'll tip out just a small amount, because that nettle tea is quite concentrated, into a full can of water, and then feed everything this pungent but really beneficial plant food. So my spaghetti squashes get a feed. In fact, everything from the cucurbit family gets a feed. So this, the butternuts and my zucchinis all get this feed. I also feed tomatoes, basil, anything that you think of as being a really hungry plant gets this nettle feed. You can also strengthen this up and use it much less diluted as a foliar feed, which means you pour it on the leaves. But for that, you want much more nettles to far smaller amount of water and be thin with it. You also don't want to do that during the day. You just want to do this in the morning before any sunshine has hit them, or late in the evening after the sun has gone to bed. These here are the main variety of tomato I'm growing this year. This is Rogac, which is a Croatian variety, and it's supposed to have pointed fruits. We've had a little bit of trouble with a lot of my flowers dying back. They're not getting pollinated. So a little trick that I used to try and employ back home in Australia is to hand pollinate your flowers. Now, tomatoes release their pollen when they feel the vibrations. So what I do is just gently tap the back of the flower to try and get it to self-pollinate, because tomato flowers have both parts active at the same time. Both the male and the female part of the flower are both sort of sexually active, if you like, at the same time. So if you just give them a little tap to mimic the vibrations of a bumblebee or something, then it will often, it's not 100%, but it'll often pollinate that flower for you. And I have been having some little success with this. There's the first tomato fruits just starting to form. It's pretty exciting stuff, really. Right here, right next to my brand new stepping stone, I'm going to add a little bit of late summer interest to my garden. I'm just going to peel back my mulch here. And mulch is so important with the hot summer that we're having here in Croatia. It means that a lot of the water that we put into the ground, look at that, that soil there I'll show you, is still actually got a little bit of moisture in it. And I haven't watered down here for days and days and days. And that's really amazing considering we've had 30+ degrees temperatures every day. So in order to get some of that late summer colour that I was just talking about, right in here, right near where we've got this beautiful new stepping stone, I am going to put in a sunflower. Now, sunflowers are actually quite thirsty, hungry plants. So we've got a little bit of compost and some cardboard to make a little sump underneath there. So because it has been so very dry and we really haven't had, well, much rain at all to speak of, what I'm going to do is add some cardboard, just torn up brown cardboard, to the bottom of my planting hole, and then I'm going to give it a really good soak, and then this will hold on to that moisture really well and make sure that when this sunflower reaches its roots down, that it'll find some moisture there. What I use here is a little bit of a broken pot or an old broken terracotta tile in the bottom of my pots. This aids the drainage to make sure that my soil or my compost or potting mix doesn't fall through the hole, but it also means that I have something firm that I can push on, and it alleviates a lot of the troubles that people are saying they have with terracotta pots, which is primarily that you can't flex them in order to push the plant out. So this way, I have a way of saving the environment, saving the plastic, also saving my fingers. So one really important tip when you're watering things in a dry summer like this is to just always water on the ground, right next to where you've just planted, so that you're getting no water on those tender young leaves. Water on the leaves in this harsh sun can actually act like a little magnifying glass and can burn holes in your leaves and give them terrible, terrible sunburn, and even sometimes kill the leaf. I think that's about all we've got time for. I hope you find a job this week that gives you real pleasure in the doing. If you like what we're doing, please hit like, and if you haven't already, click subscribe. Until next time then, do widzenia.